Should you hire a VA or a virtual assistant for your high-ticket dropshipping business? This video is going to be an honest conversation around my thoughts on the pros and the cons of hiring a virtual assistant for your business. Before I get into the subject matter, I just want to remind everybody, if you are interested or planning on building a high-ticket dropshipping business in 2025, the link to my program is in the description below. I initially recorded the first version of this course specifically for high-ticket dropshipping back in 2022, fall of 2022. I am currently in the process of releasing the 2.0 version of this, which will come out later this month in January of 2025. If you buy the course at the current price, you will be grandfathered into the new course at no additional cost, and the new course for new people is going to be a lot more expensive than the current one is. So if you are interested, I recommend getting in now and save some money. That said, let's get into the subject matter. Should you hire a virtual assistant for your high-ticket dropshipping business? And I want to approach this with as unbiased of a view as I can. Just to level set, I have never actually personally hired a virtual assistant for my own businesses, but I have helped hire a virtual assistant for the gentleman who bought my high-ticket dropshipping business back in 2023. So I have at least some perspective on how the process actually works as far as hiring them and training them and getting them up to day-to-day operations. And I also just want to weigh the pros and the cons. So first, let's talk about the value that virtual assistants provide for your e-commerce business. The value is obvious. They're taking work off your plate that you don't have to do. And they make your business a lot more passive than it otherwise would be. So what are they actually taking off your plate? I mean, as a business owner, that's kind of up to you. That's kind of a judgment call as far as how much leash you actually want to give them, how much responsibility you want to give them. Generally, when it comes to high-ticket dropshipping, what they'll be taking off your plate is customer service, first and foremost. They'll be handling calls that come in, whether it's about sales, whether it's about product troubleshooting for someone that bought something, managing existing orders if someone's calling in and trying to figure out where's their order at, managing returns, managing warranty stuff. All this stuff that is just part of the day-to-day job that you just kind of hand off to them, and it saves a lot of time for you. A lot of the stuff like handling billing, handling accounting, that's probably still going to be handled by you as the business owner, as it should be, since you were the actual one, paying this person. But the value is they make your business a lot more passive. And so it allows you the freedom to travel, to spend time doing the things that you like to do. And you don't necessarily have to be bogged down by, being available to answer a customer call when it comes in. So that the value is obvious, and I think that kind of sums it up nicely. Now let's talk about the drawbacks, and I'll talk about why I personally have never wanted to hire a virtual assistant for my business. And to be clear, it's not because I don't want to pay the overhead for it. Because at the end of the day, depending on where I'm hiring the person from, the overhead is really not that much. I'll get into why I wouldn't necessarily want to pay for it. Let's talk about where they're being hired from first. If you're hiring someone from the United States to be a virtual assistant for you, and you're paying them hourly, or maybe you're paying them a small salary, that is going to be a much larger expense than it will be if you hire someone from overseas. That's just the reality of it. The US dollar is really strong in other countries where virtual assistants are really common and really plentiful. The most common example is the Philippines. And if you're comparing how much you have to pay someone from the Philippines to someone that works in the United States, it's going to be much easier to find a really quality, hardworking candidate from the Philippines for the same amount than it would be in the United States. And I think that's more of a testament to the hardworking value of people in the Philippines. They When you're comparing it to someone from the United States, I think people in the US are really spoiled, frankly. Um, and we just have come to be conditioned to being paid way more for doing way less. I mean, you just look at the minimum wage, you look at what people at McDonald's are getting paid. They're getting paid more now than I did in my college internship. I mean, that's just where things are at now. So if you want to pay someone quality that's actually going to do this job for you, it's just going to be way more expensive paying someone from the United States than it will be paying someone from the Philippines. So that's the first part of it. So let's assume you're not willing to pay for someone in the United States. Let's just knock that off the table, because that is, again, it's like a 5x expense compared to what it will be elsewhere. Let's say you're going to hire someone from the Philippines, which I have been directly involved with, again, with the gentleman that bought my business back in 2023. There are just challenges that come along with this. For one thing, and the biggest glaring problem, is that English is not their native language. That doesn't mean they don't speak it well. It doesn't mean they don't understand what it is they're supposed to be doing. It means none of that. It's not a reflection on the person. It's more of a reflection on the customers that they are going to be working with and trying to sell these products to on behalf of your business. The reality is that customers in the United States, some of them, a lot of them, do not like to hear an accent on the other side of the phone that suggests this person is not in the United States. It sounds like offshore phone support. And I mean, I can tell you from my own personal experience, if I'm like calling my insurance company, if I'm calling Verizon, anybody for this matter, I'm always semi-relieved when I get someone from the United States on the phone, because I know it's just going to make for a much easier conversation, and whether I like it or not, I feel more comfortable about the conversation. And that's just how a lot of customers in the United States operate. So, keeping that in mind, the language, not that it's a language barrier, but people are going to recognize that, English is maybe not your first language. There are going to be some that don't care, but let's just leave that where it is. That's just part of the reality of it. Another part is that they're on the other side of the earth. These people are working throughout the night. The guy that I helped hire for my previous business, for the buyer of my business, he, during the day, his local time, would work at his family's restaurant. And then at night, he would work for 9 hours during United States business hours, offering customer service for the business that I sold. And I could never wrap my head around when he was actually like sleeping or eating or doing anything other than working. It didn't make any sense to me. So not everybody has that situation. That was just my particular encounter with this whole process. But I learned my business over the course of several years, and I got to a point where I understood the customers well. I understood their language. I understood the products well. I understood my suppliers. I got to know them personally. All these very important dynamics and relationships that it is nearly impossible to just pass on to another person that has not nearly as much skin in the game as you do in your own business. So not saying that people can't be quick learners, because this guy actually did pick things up really quickly. There's a learning curve to everything, and so for me, it was tough I wanted this guy to just understand everything right off the bat, and that's not the reality of how human beings work. And so it took, several weeks to really get him up to speed with these otherwise complicated products that my business was selling. So there's that side of it. Then I think the most important factor of all of this to me is sales calls. Because, things like customer service when it comes to like managing returns or warranty stuff or troubleshooting a product, stuff like that, I I feel perfectly comfortable handing off to somebody. When it comes to the actual sales calls, when a customer calls in looking to buy something, or considering buying something, I come from sales. I know I'm a good communicator. And personally, I really struggle handing that off to somebody else because, not because I don't think they can't handle it, but because they're never going to care as much about that sale coming in as I do. Because that sale coming in means, A, in high ticket drop shipping, a lot of money and a lot of profit, and it's my livelihood. And B, I mean, I guess B is the fact that it's my livelihood. Um, so no matter who I hire, no matter how much I try to inspire them as workers, they're never going to have as much skin in the game as I do, and that's just the reality of it. Now, obviously, you can structure it to where you pay them commission based off of sales that they bring in themselves. Um, However you want to set that up, that's up to you as a business owner. I think it's a little harder to truly track like what sale they actually influenced. But there's no motivator like money, and so if you can get them to that point where they're actually motivated to bring in these sales, over there in the Philippines, like an extra, say, $200 a month, it's like that's a big deal. That is a really big deal for them. Um, so just keeping that in mind, like for me, I've never had a problem. I've never had not enough bandwidth to run these businesses on my own and handle the customers, because I think the customer service is actually like where my businesses have been strongest over the years, is actually communicating with these people and developing their trust and getting them to, you know, trust me with their funds and providing value for them. So that's just my 2 cents on the whole thing. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to hiring a virtual assistant, because different people have different life situations. Maybe they own, several businesses. Maybe they own 10 of them. Like the guy that I sold my business to, this was like one of 15 businesses that he basically owned. So it was like a drop in the bucket for him. He doesn't have the time to be hands-on with this thing. So yeah, it made perfect sense to hire a VA for him. Uh, I've never been at a point where I couldn't handle the volume that was coming in, whether it's with my current businesses, whether it's with my high ticket drop shipping consulting, if that's what you want to call it. I've never been at a point where I couldn't handle it all myself. And what that means is I don't have to pay extra overhead for other people to do what I am perfectly capable of doing. Whether that will always be the case, I don't know, but that's just where we're at today. So, hope that's a valuable video. That's just my 2 cents on virtual assistants and making your business more passive. But I'll cut that here. We'll see you in the next video.